we know that Kim, and it's in this is in the documentation, shout out to paperwork. He looked in the paperwork and it said Kim received a massage for about an hour when she's supposed to have full-blown pneumonia. Who gives somebody a massage when they got pneumonia? And do we know whether she used that baby oil or not for that massage? It makes you say,
For years, Kim Porter was seen as the calm center of a very loud universe. Model, actress, mother. A woman who carried herself with quiet strength while standing next to one of the most powerful figures in entertainment, Sean Diddy Combs. But when Kim passed away in November 2018 at just 47 years old, something about the story never quite settled for the people who knew her, or the people who loved her from afar. At first, the headlines were simple. Kim Porter was found unresponsive in her Los Angeles home. Emergency services arrived. She was pronounced dead. The official cause, lobar pneumonia, natural causes. Case closed, at least on paper. But almost immediately, questions began circulating. Not wild conspiracy theories, questions rooted in timing, behavior, and the people closest to her. Kim had been active, present, engaged in her children's lives. According to friends and family, she had recently been celebrating her son, Quincy Brown's career milestones. She was spotted smiling, supporting, showing up. Nothing about her public life suggested a sudden medical emergency was imminent. That contrast is where doubt took hold. Kim Porter wasn't just Diddy's former partner, she was the mother of 4 of his children. She was also Quincy Brown's mother, Quincy being raised by Diddy but biologically the son of music executive Al B. Sure. And it's that family dynamic that makes this story far more complex than headlines ever captured. In the weeks after Kim's passing, Diddy publicly mourned her. Emotional tributes, family photos, statements about love, loss, and legacy. On the surface, everything looked aligned with grief. But behind the scenes, not everyone accepted the explanation so easily. Al B. Sure, Kim's former partner and Quincy's biological father became one of the first public voices to express doubt. At first, it was subtle, emotional posts, grief-driven reflections. Then, over time, his language sharpened. He said Kim never mentioned feeling seriously ill. He said she appeared healthy and upbeat shortly before her death. He said the official explanation didn't make sense to him, not emotionally and not medically from his perspective. These were not accusations, they were questions. And questions, when left unanswered, have a way of growing. Meanwhile, Quincy Brown took a very different approach. While others spoke, Quincy stayed quiet. He didn't go online with accusations. He didn't lash out. He didn't publicly confront Diddy, despite speculation from fans who watched his every move. He appeared briefly at Diddy's legal proceedings, which some misinterpreted as loyalty, but others saw as something more complicated. Unlike Diddy's biological sons, Justin Combs and Christian King Combs, Quincy was never named in any lawsuits, never pulled into allegations, never surrounded by controversy. His silence wasn't chaotic, it was controlled, and that distinction matters. As Homeland Security raids later unfolded at Diddy's properties, Quincy was notably absent. That absence didn't go unnoticed. Commentators like Jaguar Wright began speculating publicly, emphasizing that speculation, suggesting Quincy may have been intentionally staying out of sight, prioritizing his sister's safety, and observing quietly. Again, speculation, not proof. But it fed a narrative that Quincy wasn't disengaged. He was waiting. And then came the reports that changed the tone of everything. Whispers began circulating that Quincy Brown might be collaborating with 50 Cent on a new documentary, one that would focus not on Diddy, but on Kim Porter herself, her life, her final days, the unanswered questions surrounding her passing. For many viewers, this felt significant. 50 Cent's previous documentary had drawn criticism for what it left out, particularly anything substantial about Kim Porter. If Quincy was now involved in telling that story, it suggested something had shifted. And once that door cracked open, people started revisiting the timeline more closely than ever before. According to official records, Kim Porter began feeling unwell roughly a week before her death. A sore throat, a fever, symptoms that reportedly improved with treatment. She tested negative for flu and strep. By November 14th, sources say her temperature had normalized. Here's where many observers pause. That same evening, Kim reportedly received a massage at her home.
Big brother,
that detail.
Dad, but this is nuts. I might record the whole ride. I might run out of storage. Oh, you need that. What'd you forget?
My license.
And what do you need to drive?
Included in documentation, but rarely discussed publicly, became one of the most questioned moments in the timeline. People asked, if she was seriously ill with pneumonia, why invite someone into the home? Why engage in physical therapy-like contact? Who was the person providing the massage? Those questions were never answered publicly. The next morning, Kim was found unresponsive. The autopsy listed no drugs, no alcohol, no underlying conditions. A healthy woman, by most accounts, whose body suddenly failed. For some, that was enough. For others, it raised more questions than answers. Al B. Sure would later say publicly that he believed Kim felt unsafe before her death. He referenced messages, conversations, moments that, in his view, suggested fear. He claimed Kim had hinted that she was being followed or watched. These statements were his perspective, not confirmed evidence, but they added emotional weight to the narrative. Then something else happened. In 2022, Al B. Sure himself suffered a sudden and severe medical emergency. He collapsed unexpectedly. What followed was shocking: multiple organ failure, a coma lasting weeks, an eventual liver transplant. Doctors reportedly struggled to explain how so many systems failed at once. Again, no proof of wrongdoing, but the timing intensified public speculation, especially after Al publicly connected his health crisis to the period when he began speaking more openly about Kim. When he later appeared in a mainstream television interview and said he believed someone tried to silence him, the internet exploded. Not because the claim was verified, but because of how firmly he stated his belief. He said he felt ignored, pressured, discredited. He said powerful forces had worked to dismiss him as unstable. He framed his survival as a reason to finally speak freely. At the same time, fans noticed patterns they couldn't ignore. Other names began resurfacing in online discussions: Heavy D, Brittany Murphy, Bobby Christina Brown, individuals whose deaths involved pneumonia-related causes. Medical experts have repeatedly stated pneumonia can be deadly and unpredictable, but the repetition made people uneasy. Once a narrative forms online, it feeds itself. And then there was the question of control. Former associates and commentators, including Jaguar Wright, have long claimed Diddy exerted extreme control over his inner circle. She has spoken for years about power dynamics in the industry, again, framed as allegations and personal beliefs, not legal findings. When Cassie's lawsuit later detailed claims of manipulation and control within relationships, the public revisited Kim's story through a new lens. People began asking, was Kim free? Was she protected? Was she afraid? Or was this simply a tragic medical event being pulled into a larger scandal unfairly? That tension between tragedy and suspicion is what keeps the story alive. The truth about Kim Porter's story is this: it never ended. It was paused. For years, her name has floated quietly in the background of conversations about power, loyalty, and control in the music industry. Not shouted, not sensationalized, just unfinished. And maybe that's why the questions keep coming back stronger every time a new detail surfaces. Kim Porter wasn't just connected to fame, she lived inside it. She knew the private version of people the world only saw on red carpets and magazine covers. She raised children inside an environment where influence could protect you or silence you. And when she passed, the world was told it was natural, tragic, sudden, and that was supposed to be enough. But for many, it wasn't. What makes Kim's case so emotionally heavy isn't just the circumstances of her passing, it's the behavior of the people left behind. The pauses, the silence, the careful wording, the way certain questions are never answered directly. Quincy Brown remains at the center of that quiet tension. Unlike others in the family orbit, Quincy never turned this into a public battle. He didn't monetize grief. He didn't jump on interviews. He didn't use social media to fire shots or defend anyone. Instead, he did something far rarer in celebrity culture. He waited. That patience is exactly why people are paying attention now. If Quincy truly is working on a project centered on Kim's life, not rumors, not attacks, but her story, it could be the first time her narrative is told without being filtered through anyone else's image. Not as someone's ex, not as someone's tragedy, but as a woman, a mother, and a human being whose final chapter still raises questions. And that's where this story shifts from gossip to something deeper. Because whether you believe Kim's passing was a tragic medical event or something that deserves further scrutiny, one thing is undeniable. The conversation around her was never allowed to breathe. It was sealed quickly, too quickly for many. People noticed how rarely her name was addressed in major documentaries, how her perspective was missing, how her voice, literal and figurative, was absent. And silence, especially in an industry built on exposure, tends to invite speculation. That doesn't mean every theory is true. It means people want clarity. Al B. Sure's public statements added emotional fuel to that desire. His grief has always felt raw, unresolved, and deeply personal. When he questioned the official explanation, he wasn't presenting evidence. He was expressing disbelief. And disbelief, when repeated over time, becomes part of the story whether anyone wants it to or not. His later health crisis only intensified public curiosity. Again, no proof of connection, no confirmed wrongdoing, but the timing, combined with his outspoken stance, made people uncomfortable in ways that statistics and reports couldn't quiet. Then there's the broader pattern people can't stop noticing: powerful figures, private circles, long-standing influence, a culture where speaking up can cost careers. When stories like Cassie's surfaced, it forced the public to reconsider dynamics they once ignored. And once that door opens, everything connected to it gets re-examined, fairly or unfairly. Kim Porter's story became part of that re-examination. Not because she was accused of anything, but because she was close enough to see everything. And that's why her silence, permanent, tragic silence, that feels so loud. The question people are really asking isn't what happened. It's why does it still feel unresolved? Why do people who knew her best speak in fragments? Why do timelines raise eyebrows instead of answers? Why does her story resurface every time the industry faces accountability? Maybe the truth is simple. Maybe it's painful. Maybe it's boring in a way people don't want to accept. Or maybe, just maybe, the full story hasn't been told yet. And that's why this matters. Not to accuse, not to convict, not to rewrite history recklessly, but to acknowledge that Kim Porter deserves to be remembered as more than a footnote in someone else's downfall. She deserves a complete narrative, one that includes her strength, her fears, her love for her children, and yes, the unanswered questions that still surround her final days. If a new documentary truly centers her voice, her experiences, and her timeline, not speculation, not sensationalism, it could finally bring something rare to celebrity culture: closure without cruelty. Until then, the conversation continues. And here on I Love Gossip, we don't rush to conclusions. We examine patterns, timelines, and what gets left unsaid. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Kim Porter's case deserves deeper attention? Do you think silence has protected people or prevented healing? And if Quincy tells his mother's story, do you think it will finally shift the narrative? Drop your thoughts in the comments, respectfully, thoughtfully. If this breakdown made you think, like the video. If you want more deep dives into celebrity stories the headlines never finish telling, subscribe to I Love Gossip. And if you know someone who still has questions about Kim's story, share this video and keep the conversation going. Because some stories don't end when the headlines stop, they end when the truth is finally allowed to breathe.